Alright, so this is how I passed my Willis Capital Phase 1 account. As you can see on Willis Capital Trading Platform, I took just 5 trades in 2 weeks, and out of those 5 trades, I won 3 trades and I lost 2. And if we head on to TradingView, I'll show you my analysis on those 5 trades that I took. So the first trade I took last week from Monday New York session, you can see when we go on the daily time frame, you can see that price is clearly bearish. We are shifting structure to the downside. Price is clearly bearish, and I'm looking for only downtrends. I'm looking for only sell trades. So once I came here, I drew my trend line from peak to peak because it was very obvious. Normally I don't use trend line because my 50 EMA is already there to tell me when price is bearish or bullish. But for this particular pair, this peak to peak was very obvious, so I just drew it. As you can see here, this is a daily supply zone or daily bearish order block. This is the last bullish candle before this bearish move. So as price came into this zone, you can see that coincidentally it was in confluence with this third touch of this trend line. And as Willis always says, the third touch of the trend line does the trick. So if we head on to the 4-hour time frame, this was where I waited for my shift of structure, because even though we are bearish on the daily time frame, we don't just blindly enter the trade, we wait for the shift of structure. And once price tapped into the daily supply, tapped into the trend line, you can see that price did not break this structure right here. Even when it came here, it continued going up, we're still bullish. We're only bearish when we broke structure. Once we broke this structure right here, that was when we became bearish. And as we broke the structure, we only just wait for price to pull back to this 4-hour supply zone or 4-hour order block, and you can just enter here with your stop loss at this high, 4-hour high. We don't need any more confirmation. Once we are using the daily trend line and price breaks structure on the 4-hour time frame, you can just enter at the next available supply or demand. In this case, is supply, and I'll stop loss at this high. But if you need a more refined entry to get more higher risk to reward, you can head on to the 15 minutes time frame and get a refined entry. But I think I just used the wider stop, and I aimed for a 1:2.5. I was out at a 1:2.5. So if we can head to the 15 minutes time frame, I'll show you my entry right at this zone. So as you can see, this was where the break of structure happened on the 4-hour time frame. So as price broke the structure, I would set my sell limit at this 15 minute supply. So as you can see, daily supply, 4-hour supply, 15 minute supply. I set my sell limit here, and this was the actual trade I took. This one right here with the wider stop. This one I was about to enter, but I was not able to enter. So I entered right here with my stop at the 4-hour high, and I aimed for the next support and resistance zone where price will have a reaction from. If we check back on this 4-hour time frame, I marked up this zone because I knew that this was a place where price will have a reaction from. If you notice, support, resistance, support, and if you notice, as price tapped here, it pushed back and it would have taken us out if we wouldn't have put our take profit here. So this was the first trade, easy trade, trading with the trend, waiting for confirmation before our entry. The next trade I took was on USD Chef. This trade was actually a loss, but the same strategy. I will take this trade over and over again. In this case, it was a 4-hour trend. If you remember what I said on the daily, when we're using a daily trend, we look for a 4-hour shift of structure. If we're using a 4-hour trend, we look for a 15-minute shift of structure. So now when you come to as we're seeing this chart now, as you can see now, price is shifting structure to the downside. Price is under the 50 EMA on the 4-hour time frame, showing that we are bearish. So I came here and marked up my supply zone, which is right here on my 4-hour order block. As I marked up this zone, I waited for price. I set my alert here. As price tapped into it, you can notice this rejection. Price tapped into it, rejected and closed under. Tapped into it again, rejected, closed under. This is an indication that sell orders are there, and the sellers are overpowering the buyers. So this gave me an extra confluence. So I headed to my 15 minutes time frame. Head to the 15 minutes time frame and we'll wait for our shift of structure. No shift of structure, no trade. Even though price is bearish on the 4-hour time frame, we still need our shift of structure to give us that extra confluence, telling us that sellers are gaining weight so we can enter the trade with more confidence. So as you can see here, as price tapped into our 4-hour supply zone, price broke structure beautifully right here. We broke the structure and I set my sell limit at this 15-minute supply zone. And if you notice, where this is in New York session. Another thing is, I will not take my trade outside an active session. I only take my trade in an active session and I wait 1 hour after a session opens. I always wait 1 hour because I want to avoid fake outs and manipulation. So if you notice, this is inside New York session and I set my sell limit here, my stop loss above the 4-hour rejection that happened right here. And if you notice, price went in our direction in Asian session for a 1-to-1 before coming back to take us out at London session. In this particular case, price did not do exactly what we wanted. It was a random loss because I will take this trade over and over again. This is a high probability trade and I'll take it over and over again. This is just a random loss. It's a game of probabilities, remember. So in this case, it didn't work in our favor, but I'll take it over and over again. So this case was a loss and we're minus 1%. So I waited for the next higher probability trade, which took about, I think it took about a week before I saw this trade again. So if we go to the daily time frame, on the daily time frame, we can see that price is clearly bearish. Even a baby can see that price is bearish. We are under the daily 50 EMA, and this is an area of interest. An area of interest is a support and resistance zone that has more than 3 touches. If you notice, we have a touch right here, we have a touch right here, touch here, touch here. We have multiple touches on this zone, and if we zoom in, we can see that there is also a daily supply or daily bearish order block right here, the last bullish candle before this down move. This is our daily supply. So I set my alert here as price tapped into it, into this area of interest. This purple block I drew here tapped into the daily EMA. I knew that price is about to start reversing back to the downside. This was the pullback, so I headed to my 4-hour time frame. The same thing we did on Audi card. Headed to my 4-hour time frame and I waited for my shift of structure. No shift of structure, no trade. So if you can notice here, when price tapped into this daily zone, those traders that trade bearish engulfing, if you have entered with a bearish engulfing with your stop loss here, you will have gotten stopped out, because as long as we haven't shifted structure to this downside here, we are still bullish. The only way we are bearish is when we break structure. So price came here, we didn't break structure, we still went up. Price came here, it broke this structure, but if you notice, we didn't break this low here, we only broke this one here. And as long as price didn't break here, we are still bullish. And if you notice, if you have entered this trade with your stop loss here, you have gotten stopped out. I was only interested in this trade when we broke this structure right here. When we broke this structure, I knew that okay, at the pullback, that was where the sell move is going to happen. So I set my alert at this 4-hour supply zone, very close to the daily area of interest. Not at this one, but at this one, because this one is usually used as liquidity. And if you notice, price took out the liquidity and price tapped into this 4-hour supply zone right here. So once price tapped into it, we don't need any other confirmation again. You can just enter like I did right here with your stop loss above this high right here. And I needed a 1:3.5 to pass this, to pass my challenge, because the Willis Capital phase 1, the first phase is 5% profit target. So I needed a 1:3.5 to pass this. And as we are at the daily zone, I knew that this was a high probability trade. So as price tapped here, I held my trade over the weekend. If you notice, this was Friday. At Friday, we're already up 1-to-1, but I wasn't satisfied with the 1-to-1. So I held over the weekend. And if you notice what happened over the weekend, as market opened the next week Monday, you can see this ginormous gap that happened at market open. As this gap down happened, I was already up in 1:2.5, and I knew that anytime there's a gap, the gap always gets filled. So I wanted to get my profit out as soon as possible, because I didn't want that pullback. I wanted to get my money out as fast as possible. So I closed out my trade here. But what I didn't know is that price will eventually come to my original take profit before filling up the gap. So I cut my profit short right there, and I needed an extra 1% to pass my challenge. Now, because I needed an extra 1% to pass my challenge, when price came back again to this zone, if you notice, price came back again to this zone. to this 4-hour zone. I went to my 15 minutes time frame. I knew that this wasn't a high probability trade. I always send my trade ideas to Willis Capital Trade Idea channel. All this trade I took, I sent it to the trade channel, but this particular trade I didn't send it because I knew this wasn't a high probability trade. I just needed my 1-to-1 risk to reward trade to pass my challenge. And as you can notice, I came here, waited for my shift of structure on the 15 minutes time frame. Price tapped into the 4-hour supply zone again, broke structure, and I set my sell limit at this zone, 15 minutes supply. And as you can see, price came here, tapped into it, and took us out. So this was a low probability trade. If I was trading on a live account, I won't have taken this trade because I knew that it wasn't a high probability trade. But because of my 1-to-1, because I wanted the 1-to-1, that's why I took this low probability trade. And I lost it. So we're down 2%. I need an extra 2% to pass my challenge, and that's why I saw this GBP audit trade. So this GBP audit trade was a very high probability trade. On the 4-hour time frame, you can notice a very visible head and shoulder pattern that happened. Price shifted structure beautifully. This is a head and shoulder pattern, a very high probability trade. We shifted structure here because we were bullish before. We shifted structure, we closed under the 4-hour 50 EMA, indicating that price is about to go bearish. So I set my alert at this 4-hour supply zone right here. And if you notice, price pulled back during Asia's session. I was sleeping when price tagged us in. But if you notice this beautiful rejection, price tapped into the 4-hour supply and rejected beautifully. This is an indication that sell orders are in this particular forward supply, and price is about to start tanking because the sellers are overbuying the buyer. So all I did was I headed to the 15 minutes time frame, waited for my 1 hour. I waited 1 hour after London session opens because I don't take a trade during a session open. I always wait 1 hour after. And if I turn on my session based indicator right here, you can see that at this point, after price tapped here during Asia session, tapped into the 4-hour supply zone and rejected, I waited for another shift of structure because if you notice on the daily time frame we use a 4-hour shift of structure, on a 4-hour trend we use a 50-minute shift of structure. So price shifted structure beautifully here, and price pulled back exactly at the time, at my entry time, 1 hour after London session. This was where I entered my trade. My stop loss at the 4-hour week, the 4-hour rejection, and you can see all the sell orders came in from here. As you can see, beautiful trade. Look at these sell orders that came in here, both the aggressive sellers, and I only needed a 1:2 to pass the challenge. But if I was on a live account, I would have held all the way down here till the end of the session or to the end of the day. I would have gotten a 1:4. So as you can see, easy trades. These trades did not stress me. I was trading just on the daily trend and on the 4-hour trend, waiting for my confirmation, the shift of structure, and entering at the right session 1 hour after a session opens. These were beautiful trades, and these are the proof on my Willis Capital trading platform. As you can see, this is a 3K account. I'm in phase 2 now. That's why the balance has reset. This is the audit card, the first trade I took. The second trade, USDHF, which was a loss. The GBP daily trend, which was a win. The second trade that I tried to catch a 1-to-1, which I lost. And this last trade, GBP audit, which was a win for a 1:2.5. This one was a 1:2. This one was 1:2. This one 1:2.5. This one 1:2.5 also. So as you can see, easy trades, trading with the daily trade, trading on the 4-hour trend, being patient enough, waiting 1 week, sometimes a few days, waiting for a setup to form. Easy trade. That was all I used to pass my Willis Capital phase 1 account. So I'll also be updating you guys when I pass my phase 2 account also too. So subscribe to this channel, turn on the post notifications so that you get updated when I post my phase 2 trade analysis and all the trades I took. Even when I get to live phase 2, I also post all the trades I took before I get my payout. Being very transparent, I won't hold anything back, telling you all my trading analysis before, during, and after. So okay guys, that's all. Peace out. Have a nice day.